Welcome to episode 235 of 3 Point Podcast. We're partnered with Skymint Cannabis, Michigan's leader in the industry. Many locations throughout the state of Michigan, but our Corunna location, you definitely want to get on in there. The coupon code 3.20, that's 3POINT20 at the Corunna store, 20% off Skymint products, new customers only. We've talked about it before. Support the podcast. We don't ask for a whole lot, but support our advertisers and check out Skymint. And by the way, check out their new Skymint Reserve featuring exceptional profiles. In other words, they like to say it, I'll say it too, the good stuff. So check it out at Skymint. We're also brought to you by Memorial Healthcare, home of the walk-in sports injury clinic, now open every Monday through October 17th at the stunning new Now Community Wellness Center. Guys, you know, you've heard me talk about my aches and pains before. I'm doing physical therapy there, and I gotta tell you, man, it's just gorgeous and stunning. I'm looking to recording there in the new podcast studio they got there. Right. I took a peek in the window. I mean, they've got a great setup. They got like 3 professional microphones hanging on the desk. They got the video feed. I've already made contact with Memorial, so probably in the next couple weeks, I'll actually record my portion from that pod studio. So it's
that might be, you know, sort of like how we have the Tooncast. I think maybe the winter edition of that is like the Memorial Healthcare Cast.
If we get you both guys up here, we're gonna do it for sure.
Yeah, it would be cool. Do you know the details of it? Do you have to pay? Like, do you have to be a member to use it, or can anyone in the community come in and use it?
Well, I know we can use it free of charge. Okay. I've already got that confirmation. So I'm looking forward to that. In fact, we got an upcoming guest, Dr. Albana, you know, from the sports clinic. We're going to hook up with him and interview him. So looking forward to that. I also want to thank our local partners. They include AZEE Printing Solutions, Capital Sports, Fieldhouse, and Hit and Pitch, Crow Real Estate and Auction, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals, Taphouse, and Grille. Is this a good time to maybe talk about an upcoming thing we might have going on there, Michigan State weekend, possibly, Matt?
Yeah, we're hoping kind of in partnership with NCG, the theater in Owosso. Hopefully it sounds like it's going to happen, but we'll have some pretty cool Michigan swag, maybe autographed by the head coach there at Michigan, football helmet, something like that. And we're hoping to kind of like you're kind of alluding to, get it going with Rivals like we've done before, and you know, do some sort of giveaway and, you know, go watch the game at Rivals and have a chance to win this cool stuff. So yeah, we'll have more details as it gets confirmed.
I don't think there's anywhere I'd rather be on Michigan State Saturday than at Rivals. I mean that full-heartedly, man. It's one, watching it at a game, you don't got to pay $200 to get a ticket, do all that. Tailgates can be cold. Just go into Rivals, 10 a.m., get some Bloody Marys rolling. Got some good giveaways going on. I mean, it's, you know, everybody there, you know, it's like cheers. Just sounds like a great spot to be on that great October 29th Saturday.
And they'll have it on the
they've got the big screen. That's probably what you're about to say. They've got 100 other screens all over the place. So there's going to be whatever other games are on. Hopefully by then, I think we're going to get hooked up with some more koozies from our friends at AZEE.
We are.
So those might be getting handed out too. So yeah, stay tuned on that one.
It's all good, and we'll definitely have more details on our partnership with NCG Cinemas. In fact, the Curran Jacobs documentary premieres October 1st. He was our guest last week, and again, head out there next Saturday, October 1st, for the premiere. I think there's a 6 o'clock and an 8 o'clock showing, and highly recommend it. It's going to be an awesome event.
Seems like on Facebook. Sorry, Ted, to cut you off. Seems on Facebook he's got a bunch of people very interested. And what did he mention in the interview last week? That there's probably going to be like some refreshments, or, you know, like a little bit of an after party at Roma's.
At Roma's.
Yeah, man, go watch this documentary and then go over to Roma's and have a drink or get some food. That, if I was around and, you know, didn't have any plans, that sounds like a pretty nice little Saturday night. You know?
Yeah, I will tell you,
cool to see like something like that. You know, somebody's passion project. He, you know, put all the work into it, and that's the best part about it. You know, got great interviews, so I'm very curious to see how that is. I'm not gonna be able to make it to the opening night, but I can't wait to watch it on Prime.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And by the way, we forgot to talk to him. He's the Owosso head wrestling coach nowadays too.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, we never even got into that. I also want to thank our sponsors, Jim Woodworth and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, also helping us out every week. And this program will have our prep spotlight. We're going to be joined by Jason Hutton, the sports anchor at Fox 17 in Grand Rapids. But you know, guys, like we like to do, we'll catch up. And I've had just an unreal weekend. my Aunt Gloria, my favorite aunt of all time, passed away, and they had her memorial on Saturday morning, and it was, it's sad to see her go at 89, but it was a great tribute to, like I said, my favorite aunt. We all have our favorites aunts, even though we're not supposed to say so. She was definitely my favorite growing up, and the main reason was we celebrated Thanksgiving at her house for probably 30 years. So a lot of great memories there. But we went from that to Parker, my second granddaughter, her 4th birthday party, and they had kind of a cool theme down there. Jessica found some lady, they call her the bug lady, and she had this full table of bugs, including this hairy ass tarantula. And there was like, let's just picture, Matt, like 8 or 9 kids all on the living room floor, and this bug lady's talking about these bugs and getting them out of their little cage thing. You want to touch it? And some are going, "Ooh, no," and then others are going, "Yeah, I want to."
I was going to say, it's probably half and half. Half of them are like, "Ew, this is gross," and the other half probably want to like grab them and play with them.
I would never touch a tarantula, man. I would never. Did any kids touch the tarantula? Or was that off limits?
No, Parker was the birthday girl, so she got first choice on everything. So yeah, she got to hold it and pet it. It's kind of furry,
Yeah,
I didn't really want to get too close to it myself, but
I would hope they took the poison out of it, or whatever they can do.
I don't think tarantulas have poison. I don't think.
Not? Okay.
I thought they did. I thought they could kill you.
Yeah, I'll look it up. Stand by. Continue the show.
Okay. Well, I was going to say.
I in my Fox 17 days, back in the local news days, when I was working on the morning show, probably something similar to what you're talking about, Ted. We, morning TV, local news. Sure. A lot of times it's like puff pieces, and you do this goofy stuff going on. And we went and did a story. Someone at Grand Rapids had a huge bug display, so we went. We did a bunch of stories there, talking about all the bugs they have, where they came from, what they are, whatever. One hilarious thing, though, and it's one of my claims to fame at Fox 17. They had a bunch of edible bugs, chocolate covered, crickets, and
all right,
just a whole line of edible bugs. And I ate 5 of them live on TV, and I sent the clip to all my family and stuff like that, and whatever. But yeah, I don't know. The tarantula, I'm not very.
They're venomous.
They are venomous. Yeah,
I was dumb.
So. I feel like I would let it. I would hold it. I don't want it to be crawling all over me, though. No thanks on that.
That was kind of cool. And then they had this. It wasn't a centipede, but it was some kind of pede. It was a different name, and it had 400 legs, I guess. And it was about that big, but it was pretty cool. The kids all loved it. And after we left there, my wife and I actually had a chance to celebrate our 30th anniversary. And it's actually today as we're recording. So what kind of husband am I pulling away to record a podcast? But did I ever tell you guys about my honeymoon? This is a great sports guy honeymoon. I don't know if I ever did tell you or not. We got married, headed down to Auburn Hills, spent the night, that Saturday night in Auburn Hills, went to the Lions-Falcon game the next day. I was at that time pretty heavy duty in press credentials and stuff. So I had coordinated to get press credentials for her and I to sit in the media press box, 50-yard line, at the Silverdome, which was fantastic view. So we watched the Lions. The next day, Sunday, we took a tour of the Palace in Auburn Hills. It's gone now. From there,
and the Silverdome is
both. I know. And from there, we went to Canada. We were going to Toronto, and we went through Detroit and stopped at, I don't know if you've ever heard of a hockey guy called Don Cherry, but we went to Don Cherry's bar in Windsor, and they gave us free t-shirts, and we had a couple cocktails, and then we made our way to Toronto. And this is all romantic stuff that I had put together, right?
Yeah.
I got press credentials for the Blue Jays and the Orioles, and we spent the night in a hotel.
You're like a press credential fiend, man. I don't know. You gotta try. You just are trying to hoard it as many as you can.
You gotta have a wife though that loves all this stuff, because we watched the games. We had a hotel room overlooking the field. It was like the week before. Somebody else had a honeymoon night there and had gotten a little bit too rambunctious, and the fans in the stands could see what was going on in the hotel room. You had to sign a waiver that you wouldn't do that.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. But I will tell you, it was fantastic. The view overlooking the field, it was just great.
Yeah, it's just like that in Houston, right? I believe that they have the same sort of setup with the hotel overlooking the field. It's got to be awesome.
Right. And you're dogging on me for my media credentials, but I interviewed Chris Berman and Sean McDonough on the field before that game, as we sat in our seats for a little while, and we said, let's go up to our room. So we did that. And then we wrapped up our trip coming back through Detroit, Old Tiger Stadium, and watched the Tigers and the Orioles on Monday before we headed home from there. So how's that for a nice little sports-oriented honeymoon?
I don't know, man. That's an awesome trip. Knocking out all those stadiums and seeing all those games, and especially Jared's giving you a hard time, but with those press credentials, you're getting to get on the field, the media press box. You're getting all the free swag. I mean, I don't know, man. You should coordinate that. Set that trip up for the three of us, and we'll do it all again.
I'll see what I can do. I will say this: I kind of put together again. I coordinated everything. I don't do it very often. I tell my wife that I probably take it for granted too much, but we did it up right. So we came from the funeral towards Parker's. We drove by the old palace, which is sad to see. It's just nothing there. We drove by the Silverdome, sad. And we went to the corner. Jared looked at where Old Tiger Stadium was, and that's not so sad. I mean, that's an awesome setup down there. And we were looking around Corktown a little bit, and I know we
check out the corner ballpark. I know you've been there before, but
yes,
awesome little area. Still, they're building a lot still right around there, so it's coming back a little bit. I love it there. It's funny to me. It's like, if I'm like listening to this as like an outsider, obviously I know you very well, so I know this isn't the case. But let's see, how you proposed had to do with sports. The honeymoon had to do with sports. Your 30-year anniversary had to do with the recounting of the sport trip from. It's like, is sports your only like personality trait? Like that's all your brain can compute is like sports.
Hey, she knew what she was getting herself into.
Oh, and you guys will love this. I mean, she is the perfect wife for me, because we did end up in Windsor, and we had a room at the Caesars Casino there. So, that was nice, overlooking the city of Detroit. And then Sunday morning, we didn't do a lot of gambling on Saturday night. We were a little wore out and had other things to do. And then so we went Sunday morning. She says, I feel lucky. So we played some slots, and I'll be damned, we played for a couple hours, and it got to be where she said, we probably ought to be getting going so we can get home in time to watch the Lions. And I said, okay. She says, well, let's play a little bit more. We cashed out. We made $30 for our 30th anniversary. So it all came together.
A couple hours though.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be like you made 30 grand, or one of you hit the jackpot or something like that. But
hey, once the ticket came up and it showed we had $30 to the positive, we said, let's cash it out and let's get going. So it was a great time. We had a good time, guys.
No, that is a good time. And it is cool. I haven't hit the 30-year mark yet, but to like Jared said, to recount, to go back, and especially now knowing the Silverdome's gone, Palace is gone, and just kind of see what all that stuff is like. It would be cool to retrace those steps.
That's like, there's how like coaches have like bread and butter plays for like their offenses. You doing the recounting of like something, like, isn't that exactly what you did when you proposed? You did like basically that was a visiting different places, like recounting your relationship.
And the first place we had dinner, the first place
and then this was sort of the similar vein. That's awesome, man. I mean, that's kind of like your fastball. Still throwing at 95 miles an hour.
Still got it going, boys. I got to tell you that. And it was fun. You're right about the engagement. When I proposed, to tell you the truth, to be full disclosure, I was going to do it somewhere else, and I chickened out. I choked. I mean, I was all set to do it and get on the knee and do the whole thing. And then I choked out, man. And it took me a 3.5-hour ride back to mid-Michigan to come up with a second plan.
Yeah.
So it all worked out well.
Yep, it did.
I was going to say, the rest is history. It seems to have worked out.
Yeah.
Windsor, Jared, have you ever made a trip over to Windsor?
No, I had a lot of buddies that did. People at Tigers games all the time. That's where they all come from, man. You hear them like in the concession stand line, or when you're just walking, through it, I'm working or whatever, and you just hear the accent. You strike up conversation. That Windsor, such a quick drive right over the bridge. That's what blew my mind a little bit. I didn't realize how it's literally like right in Detroit. You can basically take a bridge right across. You're in Canada in 5 minutes.
Yeah, we did it a few times. We did it a few times in college. I don't know if it's still the same. But it used to be. It may still be the same thing. The drinking age over there was 18.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So
that's why my buddies went. Yep.
yeah, we like at least twice, maybe 3 times we got a party bus and, had like 40 people in on it,
Oh,
30, 40
that's
people
awesome.
pitch in on a party bus. It's not that expensive. They drive you across the border over to Windsor. You don't have to worry about driving or anything like that. Go to a bunch of the casinos and bars over there, as an 18, 19-year-old American, get to drink legally.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back
No,
in
I
the
definitely
day.
wish I would have looked back. I mean, they went twice, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I always kind of had a fake ID. So I never really, I honestly never really had the like, oh, I can't go here and drink. I never really experienced that, to be honest.
Right.
Well, to kind of recap it all, fellas, this you'll laugh at me because we are in a social media world and everything's automatic. You got to know what's going on. We did not know how the Michigan game went. We did not know how the Michigan State game went. We did not know how the Lions game went. We came home. It was about 2:00, and we hit the DVR and watched the Lions. This is per my wife's request, by the way.
That you didn't want to know what happened to any of it?
We didn't go way out of our way to not know, but I did stay away from social media.
Yeah.
Okay.
You must have loved that. You're like Picasso on that DVR, flipping back and forth between 3 games. Like that was your Sistine Chapel on Saturday or Sunday.
Here's the situation Sunday. So we didn't get home till Sunday.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about any of the games. So we watched the Lions, and we're going to talk more about that a little later. So we watched the Lions. Then we watched every bit of the Michigan game. We'll talk about that a little later.
Yeah.
Then we watched what did we watch? Oh, then
Spartans?
we watched Michigan State, but just fast forward through every play. Just zip, and what a disaster that was. And we'll also talk about that. And then we finished off the night watching Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. So it was a 4-game Sunday. Man, it was all my wife. So
nice.
I love you.
Solid Sunday, man. That's a, except for where it started. This all started at a funeral. So kind of except for that, it's a heck of a weekend.
Yeah, I figured I'd take the majority of the catch-up time. Did you guys do anything interesting at all?
Honestly, basically the same. I mean, working Saturday. It's college football, so I got to work Saturday, and then watching football the rest of the night, and watching the Lions, being annoyed at what happened there. So I mean. Similar weekend, just different
right
path, I guess.
Yeah.
Mine was just another wedding. I'm at the age where it's like I feel like I have a wedding every weekend, man. I have 5 this year. 5. So another good wedding. This was out like kind of a country wedding, country music getting played all over the place. I loved it, man.
That's your stuff.
Yeah. So
Saturday in the fall, though, huh? I mean, that's like the.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. People don't seem to care. You just kind of buckle up your bootstraps. Luckily, got to watch the whole Michigan game, State game blowout, so I wasn't really missing anything there. I mean, talk about a perfect Saturday to kind of do that. I think it was this Saturday. So
absolutely
I lucked out in that sense.
One final question.
Michigan at noon. That makes it. Yeah, you can watch that and then be getting ready for the wedding while you're watching the Michigan game. So
yep.
One final question for you, Jared. What's the housing situation looking like?
Move into my new apartment on Friday, actually. It's going to be a bit of a cluster. I move out of this apartment on Friday, move into my new apartment on Friday. I also work Friday at 4. So it's like, it's just going to be one hell of a day. One hell of a day doing that all in about, 5 hours. But looking forward to it, man. I mean, moving sucks. God,
yes,
it sucks.
It does.
I still got a lot of work to do here in this place. So I'm not really looking forward to that. But
same area,
workout, get the guns, muscled up.
Same area.
It's Southfield, so I'm gonna be 5 minutes from work.
Nice.
Right now I'm driving about 35 to now with road traffic about 45 or with road work, excuse me. So I'm cutting my drive time every day down by about 80 minutes.
Awesome.
It's crazy to think about, but you live 15 miles away from someplace here and it takes you 45 minutes to get there. Right. So I just can't wait. I'm gonna be right down the road. That's the best part.
Southfield's a cool area. Well, sounds good. Well, we're gonna wrap up this portion, and then we're moving on to the prep spotlight with Jason Hutton right after this.
All right, guys. Well, next up on the podcast, he's one of our favorites in our prep pigskin preview. He always gives us the complete rundown on West Michigan football. It's Jason Hutton, the sports director at Fox 17 over in Grand Rapids, where Jared and I got our start in the business. So it's cool to see him on camera and catch up with him a little bit. But we want to get an update basically at the midseason point, 5 games in. to already. It's kind of crazy on West Michigan football. So thanks for joining us, Jason.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt. You're probably gonna have to knock me down a few pegs on your list though, because my preseason talk hasn't happened like I thought it would to this point.
That was going to be one of my first questions. And let me mention real quick, the prep spotlight is brought to you by Capital Sports Fieldhouse. I got to get that in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Pay the bills, man.
I'm not as good at this as Ted. He's been doing it for 35 plus years. But so as I mentioned, the first question I was going to ask you, one of the teams you talked about in your preview, in the prep Pigskin preview, was Muskegon. You said, best team in West Michigan, and they always are. The Big Red. I mean, they're one of the premier programs in Michigan. 3-2 right now. Is that a huge surprise? Is it a letdown, or do you think they're fine? They're still going to make a run.
I think they have potential to get to where I thought they'd be, but they haven't played like I thought they would through the first 5 weeks. I'm not on the team, so I can make excuses. I mean, they're battling injuries. I mean, Jacob Price, our outstanding junior running back, I'm not sure he's 100% yet. He didn't play the first 2 weeks. He certainly wasn't 100% when he first came back in week 3. My understanding is they missed 3 defensive linemen and lost to Zeeland West on Friday and still had a lead in the fourth quarter, but the Ducks scored in the final minute to win it. So I think injuries are a factor there. But more than that, I'm just surprised because last year I've just been wrong on Muskegon. So next year I'll just predict them to be bad so that they can be good. But last year I didn't think they would be as good last year. And last year they won the OK Green Conference and they did lose in the district final, but they still won 9 games, went 9-2, and were better than I thought they'd be. But basically returned 80% of their starters because they were so young last year, playing a lot of sophomores. And it's that current junior class that I really like. And to this point, it hasn't materialized like I thought it would, but it's still early. And I do think there's potential for them to get there, but 3-2, they have a league loss. I mean, I'm not going to penalize them too much losing to Warren De La Salle, who's outstanding, but lose to Zeeland West. Zeeland West is really good this year. So that conference is still wide open because Zeeland West plays Mona Shores this week and Mona Shores is really good. So if Mona Shores wins, I don't know if they will, but if they do, then Muskegon would still be alive because they don't play Mona Shores till week 9, but they have to keep taking care of business. They have Grand Rapids Union this week. So.
One of those teams that was kind of clicking, or is clicking, I should say, so far this year is Caledonia, led by Mason McKenzie, stud quarterback. Do you think that, so far from what you've seen, do you think they have what it takes to make it all the way to Ford Field and maybe win it all this year?
It's so tough to say that because Division I's so tough. We haven't had a Division I team from our viewing area make it to Ford Field since Rockford in 2008, I believe, 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot to say that I think they can do that. I mean, I think there is the potential because they're so good. Scored 50 last week, and Mason McKenzie had 7 touchdowns, beat a really good Granville team. So it's going to be interesting because what always happens, and all these schools know it, they're all going to play. All the Division I schools on our side of the state make the playoffs. They're all going to play each other again. Like if you guys follow Snooze to You at all, he has the district out this week, and it's going to be Granville, Rockford, East Kentwood, Caledonia, which is very, very likely. So they're all going to have to play each other again after having played each other already in the regular season, which makes things tough. I think you could get upset easier playing a team that you've already played. Like Granville and Caledonia could happen again, and it just happened last Friday night. So I think it's going to be tough. I think Caledonia can do it because they're outstanding. I mean, not just Mason McKenzie, but Brock Townsend, Derek Pennington Jr., Justice Reed. Their offensive line's really coming together with 3 new starters. So I think it's possible, but it's a big challenge to get there in Division I.
Yeah. Jason, you've been doing this a long time, and you have basically a Hall of Fame college coach at Ferris and Tony Anise. Who are some of the real stellar coaches in the West Michigan area that you love to talk to and really do the job?
It's funny you bring that up because we just kind of went through a changing of the guard where all of our legendary coaches moved on. I mean, it started with Tony when he left Muskegon. That's been 15 years now.
Yeah.
But then Dan Roan left West Catholic, and Noel Dean left Lowell to go to Georgia, and Peter Sturzma left East Grand Rapids to go to Hope. So kind of all those guys that we were so used to have moved on to other things now. But one thing that's my favorite part about doing what we do here is the coaching is incredible. It really is really good. And Derek Pennington's one of the guys at Caledonia, Eric Stiegel at Granville, Brent Cummings and I went to high school together. He's at Rockford now. So that's just in the OK Red. But you talk about John Shillito in Zeeland West. I mean, he's been doing it forever, longer than all those other guys I already mentioned.
Yeah.
He's awesome. There's so many good coaches in this area. That's my favorite part about it. And so, every week it's tough because the other team's going to be well coached, and we really do see that a lot here.
Yeah. I got to bring up D5. So we all are Corona Cavalier alums, and they're in D5 now. And they did slip up last Friday against Goodrich. Kind of actually got put back down to earth a little bit last Friday against Goodrich. But the team I want to ask about is Grand Rapids Catholic Central. They seem to almost be like the class of D5. What, 3 straight state titles, 2 of them in D5? Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, and they're undefeated again at 5-0.
I was going to say, are they the team to beat in D5, or at least from your viewing area, are there other teams in D5 that us Cavaliers should look out for in the postseason?
Yes and yes. Grand Rapids Catholic Central, I would consider the team to beat because they've done it the last 2 years. Now, this is a different team. They graduated a large portion of what they did last year, but their junior quarterback, Nick Connor Wolf, has really started to play well. In fact, they beat an undefeated Forest Hills Eastern team last Friday night and scored 49. I mean, they've kind of been riding their defense because their defense is so good. They beat Cedar Springs 21-20. But they're capable on offense. They just have younger, less experienced guys. So I would still consider them the team to beat Division 5, but Division 5 on our side of the state is absolutely loaded. If I can go back to reference news to you again, the district he has right now has 4 5-0 teams, all in the same district, with Oak Ridge actually being the 1 seed, Grand Rapids Catholic Central the 2. Now there's lots of games to play. Belding is the 3 at 5-0, and Tri-County is the 4 at 5-0. I think Tri-County will have an unbeaten regular season. The rest of their schedule isn't nearly as tough as the other 3. But you look at it, Oak Ridge, Catholic Central, and Belding have 3 out of the top 4 teams in the state in Division 5. Those 3 are in the top 4, and they're all in the same district. And we saw this just 2 years ago. The same thing happened with West Calic and Comstock Park in there too. So it's really difficult. So the good news for your Corona Cavaliers is only one of those teams will get to that point. And which one it'll be, I would still bet on Grand Rapids Catholic Central, but there's a lot of good D5 teams here.
The one thing that blew me away kind of when I first started working out on the west side of the state, 3-4 years ago, I'm used to mid-Michigan where it's just basically looks like there's farmland and then they just lay a football field in the middle of the farmland. Out on the west side of the state, it's turf fields, it's awesome stands. New one that was just opened up this year was West Ottawa. You guys did a game of the week there when they broke it open. What is that field like? Is that your new favorite, or what are some of your favorite stadiums in the West Michigan area?
I would have to put West Ottawa to number 1. It's incredible. I still haven't seen a game there. I was there for actually practice.
Oh, okay.
But the stadium's phenomenal, and I definitely want to see a game there on a Friday night because I got to believe it's even better. But it's different, right? You see all these stadiums and they're very nice, but they're similar. And West Ottawa is just different. The way it has an overhang and just kind of the way it's laid out. No track, which is a huge thing for me. No track, all the no tracks are high up for me.
Yes.
So I would put West Ottawa number 1. And if you love high school football, I think you need to try to see a game there. And it's cool too because they've been playing better football this year. They did lose 3 in a row now and are 2-3, but that's what happens when you get in the OK Red.
Yep.
But Greenville is up there for me, and this is obviously a non-biased answer, being a guy from Belding. But I mean, Greenville's is phenomenal. Grand Rapids Catholic Central's is right there too. And Muskegon has all these outstanding facilities. East Grand Rapids is amazing because it's right on Reed's Lake. So it's so cool. And so those are some of my favorites. They all have no tracks. So that's a big thing for me. But we have unbelievable stadiums, and they're getting better too. Like Fruitport just put in Field Trip. They just had their first game on it last week. Battle Creek Lakeview, same deal. They got a giant video board, which is becoming a huge thing now. Rockford's recently redone there, so they've got the big video board and a nice new entrance. So the facilities are amazing here.
Jason, I got one final question. I'm a high school football junkie. Obviously, I've been broadcasting high school sports for 35 years, and I check out every week 4 different highlight shows, from our area. In your long time doing it over there in Grand Rapids, what have you seen the biggest change from when you started to where you are now on the Friday night presentation?
Well, it's social media. I mean, that's just my job in general. I am old enough to remember when all I had to do was pick up a camera, go to the game, film it, come back and edit it. That was my job. And now that's like 4th or 5th on my priority list. Everything is social media first. And that's become a new way. Like I want to make sure we can get things on our website, and then we can get things out to people via social media. And so updating scores, like we have 2 people now on Friday nights that are back at our station, one on Twitter, one on Facebook. And then I'm at the game of the week and I'm doing Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, just from the game of the week, which is a nice change because only a couple years ago, I was doing all of it from all of the games. Now we get a text chain with all of our guys. We usually have about 11 to 12 people out shooting games on Friday night. So we have a text chain where everybody's sending in updates. And so we can get those onto social media. And so it's really nice now to have people back here that are able to do that while I'm out, and I can just handle game of the week stuff, which actually allows me, I don't know how much you guys follow us during a Friday night, but from the game of the week, I'm actually posting the highlights that I shoot with my phone so I can get them directly onto social media as they happen from the game of the week. So without question, that is the biggest change. But one thing I always hear people say that come to West Michigan is the media coverage. I mean, that apparently I watch Lansing, I watch state champs, I watch all those guys, and I think they all do a great job, but people always comment on the media coverage of high school football in West Michigan. And that's not just us, but all of the affiliates do a great job. So it's part of what makes it so fun, I think, here in the Grand Rapids area.
I agree.
I got just one last one. We at Bally, we've started, our overtime show. I worked on your show, obviously, for a couple years there. And there's just there's some magic I can't quite really put my finger on why I felt like the Fox 17 show it was maybe because it's live on at the field. You got the guest picker type guy, every once in a while. You have good chemistry with Bakita. What do you think it is that makes your guys' show so good? What is it?
Well, I think it's the passion. I hope that's what it is anyway. I mean, Brett and I spend a lot of time on this stuff. This isn't just a 1 day a week thing. I mean, I'm watching games now that's another thing that's changed. Ted, games are streamed. So I'm watching games all week. So I don't have to be at a game to learn stuff about teams. So I can watch the Granville Caledonia game on a stream, and that helps me. I mean, I try to learn the players and not just the names, but who are the key guys, who's having big seasons, who's doing important things. So, I mean, I love it. This is my favorite time of year. I'm always thinking about and spending time on high school football. So I hope that's what sets us apart. And that's certainly our goal.
Well, you do an outstanding job for sure. We all three know that. We really appreciate you taking time out to join us here on this Prep Spotlight presented by Capital Sports Fieldhouse. Just before we sign off, tell our listeners, especially since you brought up social media, where's a good spot to check in with what you guys do?
Well, at Fox 17 Blitz on Twitter, that's probably where we have the biggest following and make the most headway there. But we're growing big time on Facebook as well. We're at Fox 17 Blitz. It's a group. It's a public group inside our Fox 17 page. So if anybody wants to join, you just ask, and then we'll approve it. And then you're in there as well. And then Instagram, we don't have anything Blitz specific, but J Hut. I can't remember how many fives I am. 5555, I believe, on Instagram. So I'm trying to get better at that as well. I have a very small following on Instagram, but I'm trying to get some content on there as well.
Well, Jason Hutton, we really appreciate the time. Looking forward to catching up with you down the road, and look forward to more good stuff. Thanks a lot for the time.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Keep up the good work on the podcast. Always fun to listen to you guys.
Appreciate
it. Thank you.
Hey, that was great stuff from Jason, and he was a good guy to work for, right, Jared?
Yeah, he really was, man. I mean, there's a reason that he is so good and that show is so good. Like he said, he puts in the work. 1, 2, he cares.
Yes.
And
passion, like
very organized, which I feel like on those Friday nights, you got 12 shooters going out. You got all these different games. You got to maximize your coverage. He's the best at that. So no, it's awesome to see. Even though I didn't grow up in the west side of the state, I don't live there anymore. I still love just like following everything they do because it's high school football at its core. That's why I love it.
I had the same experience as you. Basically, you laid out when I went over there, and I was more on the news side, but I did on Friday nights, like we've said before. I mean, it was all hands on deck. I had to go shoot high school football on Friday nights. And when I went over there, it was after I graduated college, but it was like an eye-opening experience, like you said, after growing up in mid-Michigan, seeing what we see, going to Durand and Chesaning and Owosso and stuff. And Owosso, that's an awesome stadium.
Yeah,
but,
Owosso, that was the worst. That was the only one you could have named in our area that doesn't apply to the rest. That was
right.
All the other ones are noted.
But yeah, you go to Rockford. I remember the first time I went to a Rockford game on a Friday night, and there's 8,000 people there. I was like, oh my God, this is a high school football game. So
yeah,
no, it's definitely a cool area for high school football.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more local here in this segment. I want to tell you that Capital Sports Fieldhouse, they're going to be hosting a 4-week strength and agility training camp. Get this, guys. with Michigan State Hall of Famer Greg Jones. The All-American and Super Bowl winning linebacker will hold an all-ages co-ed camp on the Fieldhouse indoor turf starting September 30th and running through October 21st. The 1-hour sessions are going to be broken down into 2 age groups, 6 to 11-year-olds from 7 to 8 p.m. and 12 and older running from 8 to 9 p.m. The first 50 registrants will receive a signed NFL rookie card of Greg Jones. They'll also get a snap a selfie, wear the Super Bowl ring, and pose with his Giants jersey. It's located in the old Capitol Bowl, J.C. Penney block on South Washington in Owosso, Michigan. For more details, call Capital Sports Fieldhouse at 989-472-4624 or go online at capitalsportsfh.com. Well, we did talk a little bit about it with Jason. Corunna Cavaliers, they got a little dose of reality on the road. First road game taken on a very good Goodrich team, and they got smoked 42-7, a mercy rule. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I saw
Goodrich
that.
is really good, right?
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about Fort Field a few weeks ago. Maybe we were jumped the gun a little bit.
Maybe a little.
Yes. Well, I was going off of your eyes. I haven't seen them play. You were saying, quote unquote, they're the real deal. They're this, they're that.
I still think they are.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Just what a weird. You just wonder what the hell. What was that? Was that like just a flat out one team being better than another? Was that a bad week of preparation? Was it reading the press clippings a little bit too much heading into the game? I mean, what was it? I understand Goodrich is a good team. They're not 35 points better.
No,
flat out not 35 points better. So I wasn't there. I didn't watch the game. I don't know what happened, but maybe they should have beat us, but by a score or two, not by 7 scores.
Yeah. Something I didn't realize, a couple friends, we were talking about it after the game. So Goodrich is D4, but they're in the same conference as Corunna. Like, how does that work out?
Schools are switching so much. I mean, we were talking about Hutton. Caledonia was D2 last season. They're D1 this year. Corunna D4 when I was in school. Now they're D5. That's why one, I guess, saving grace, I guess, for Corunna. I mean, obviously they're a good team. I mean, they're a playoff team, 100%. We're not going to debate that.
Right.
Division 5 is weaker. A lot weaker than Division 4. So just keep getting better every week. I mean, put this one behind you. Nothing you can do about it now. And
hey, they're not going to run into Goodrich in the playoffs.
Yeah, and absolutely don't got to worry about them. So
just Grand Rapids, Catholic Central, and some of those other teams Hutton was talking about.
You might have them waiting for you, but you got to get there first. So if I'm Corunna, I'm just get back to work and. At the end of your life, when you look back at it, guess what? It doesn't matter. A regular season game. Guess what does matter? A game coming up in about 5 weeks, playoffs round 1.
Yeah, 100%. They just got to refocus. I mean, it was a bad night. A lot of different things went wrong. I know after it was 7-7 ball game and a kickoff return for a touchdown, and Goodrich blocked a punt. So there was some momentum things in that game. So I think they'll be all right. But again, like I said, a bit of a wake up call. Now it's time to get back to business, and every week you got to be ready to play. Brandon down to Owosso. Brandon looks like a good quality team out of the same conference. 49-8 over the Trojans. About the only bright spot for Owosso, and they've really been struggling lately. Is late in the game they got a freshman quarterback thrown in the game, Liam Patrick, and he led them on a late TD drive, capped off by a 25-yard TD pass. So maybe the future's bright there. Durand,
was that the game you were covering?
That was the game we did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Durand against Mount Morris. Again, you've heard me talk about Durand. If we wouldn't have had Jason on tonight, I was going to try to reach out to the Durand head coach. 5-0, 51-6 over Mount Morris. And I mean, they got a stud on that team in Gabe Lynn. He had a couple more touchdowns in that one. So, our area is not being represented too bad. And again, the Morris Orioles guys, 8-man football, they used to be a doormat forever. And they went to 8-man football. They won a state championship. They now have won 26 straight league games, 21 straight regular season games. That's not too shabby.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. Morris is a 8-man football power. They got the brand new Field of Dreams built there. They're rolling. I love the Durand story, man. 5-0. They're just like if you're not from this area and you're listening, it's like Kansas football this year with Lance Leopold, man. What'd you say the head coach's name was again? He's like the Lance Leopold of high school football. I'm loving their story, man.
Absolutely. Well,
it is cool. And it's good for those kids too, because all this is going to do is help those programs. Because, before there's probably a bunch of kids who wanted to play football, but they're also like, I'm not about to go play for these terrible teams. Well, now some kids might go play football. So it's definitely a cool story.
Absolutely. Well, this segment, of course, brought to you by Capital Sports Fieldhouse. Don't forget to check out the clinic put on by Greg Jones, 4 straight weeks. Check out Capital Sports Fieldhouse online, capitalsportsfh.com. We'll be back. We're going to give our viewpoints on some of the interesting football games this last weekend, college and pro. Might have some thoughts on Dan Campbell and the Lions, I would guess. And that'll be right up after this.
As you guys know, we'll get to the Michigan game. We'll get to the Lions. I wanted to start here, Michigan State. I'm just disappointed. The reason I'm disappointed is because, as you guys know, when Michigan plays Michigan State and State has a lesser team, it's the ultimate lose-lose for Michigan. We win, nobody gives a shit. We lose, we get laughed at for 365 days about it. Yep. So the fact that State just really seems to be struggling heading into Michigan is just a bummer for everybody in the state. I don't care if you hate State or if you love them. It sucks. But as for what the hell's going on with this program, I mean, I kind of made the joke last week that it was very Brady Hoke-esque. He's really kind of solidifying that comparison. Mel Tucker is. But here's the thing that's a big difference between Brady Hoke and Mel Tucker. Brady Hoke was a kind of bring yourself up by your bootstraps, rally the troops. The players love him. He's kind of, put your nose to the grindstone, work hard, almost like a Dan Campbell type. Maybe he struggled with the X's and O's, but you knew he cared and you knew he worked hard, right? Mel Tucker, it's kind of the snake oil salesman pitch that bothers me. It's the Lambos, it's his Instagram post. Like, there's some weird ones, man. Like, there's one Instagram post that I watched maybe a week or two ago. It was just him in slow-mo walking into the stadium with some audio from his little Reno's Thursday night show or whatever. And the quote made absolutely no sense. I'm gonna have to find it here when somebody else is talking, but it literally was the most mind-numbing quote that made no sense to this XML video. And I was sitting there watching it for about 2 minutes trying to figure out what the hell it was even going on in it. I'm gonna have to find it. It's that weird. But I think it's because of stuff like that. And then this team's performance on the field that I really feel like State fans are kind of really already sort of fed up with this guy. It's weird. Isn't it weird how it seems like it's flipped in the matter of 2 weeks? It's crazy how quick it can happen. We saw it almost happen to Jim Harbaugh after the COVID season. He was maybe one more loss away from really getting some serious pressure put on his back. But it's just how they look. They look so out of sync. I know Mel Tucker was big on the transfer portal. I will say he was probably the first guy to the transfer portal, and that's why we saw him get great players like Kenneth Walker last year. I feel like the rest of college football has sort of caught back up to that, and so he doesn't have that huge advantage like he did when he first started. Now, he's relying on this transfer portal. The guys really aren't coming that are big-time game changers, and we saw that with Nebraska. They had 15 new players, and they're right where they were a year ago.
Yeah.
And then just if you really want to get down to the nitty-gritty, I mean, he's a secondary guy. This guy is Nick Saban Jr., DB coach, went to Nick Saban, coached with Nick Saban at Alabama. He should have a stellar secondary. They are so bad. Michael Penix Jr. exposed them. Then Tanner Morgan looked like freaking Tom Brady against them.
Right.
It's it's the same thing we saw last year. We thought it was an anomaly last year. We thought, he just had to get there, get his feet wet. He's going to solve this. I mean, that's his expertise. But my God, they're looking bad. People will put blame on Peyton Thorne. I mean, Peyton Thorne coming out rocking the green leg sleeve with the visor just for them to get their butt whooped. I mean, I kind of did love that part of it, but I still like Peyton Thorne. I still think he's a good quarterback. We know they have playmakers out on the perimeter. I just don't know what the hell has happened to this team in 1 year. Was really last year really just that perfect setup for them to win, 10 games and win a bowl game? I don't know. But if you're a State fan, how do you not start to turn on this guy?
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously we're seeing life without Kenneth Walker. I think that's the first thing. It's the best running back in program history. He won the Doak Walker Award last year. He was the best running back in the country. So when you lose a player like that, unless you're Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, you don't just keep filling those spots with Kenneth Walker after Kenneth Walker. And, it's going to take time. And I think we're seeing that his strategy of just wanting to get transfer portal guys every year, it's not going to work every year. I mean, you have to establish a program and have guys that are in your program for a good 2-3 years. Now he's only been there a few years. So, he's still kind of building his program. But I mean, we saw it happen with Jim Harbaugh. He kind of had some success early, and then his third year is when they went like 8-5 because, he was building his program. It takes, people don't want to admit it because it's all about, you got to win now. You got to win now. It takes a good few years to really like build your program, recruit guys in your depth guys, maybe not your stars. Maybe you're going to get a Kenneth Walker in the transfer portal, but like your depth guys, your offensive line, your defensive line, some of those kind of positions. And I think we're seeing that they're in a tough spot because they paid him a ton of money, 10-year deal. And I think Michigan State fans are starting to wonder, like, were we ahead of ourselves? I don't think they're completely punting on him yet, but they've got Maryland this weekend, who gave Michigan a game.
Not that bad a team.
Yeah, Michigan beat them up. I'm curious to see. Hopefully, they're all healthy and everything. But so they've got Maryland, and then Ohio State, and then Wisconsin, who may be a little down, but Wisconsin's always tough, and then Michigan. So they're 2-2 right now, and they go Maryland, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Michigan. They very well could lose all 4 of those games and be sitting at 2-6. If they're sitting at 2-6 with a Michigan loss, which we all know is their complete Super Bowl, then yes, I think Michigan State fans will be saying, Mel Tucker, what the hell? I think the big thing is, he's 2-0 against Jim Harbaugh. That's why they're not punting on him. He's 2-0 against Harbaugh.
Here's the thing, man. So Mel Tucker, 20-16 career record, right? Two big is basically the things he hangs his hats on are those 2 wins against Michigan. He's gotten his at big losses to Ohio State, now Minnesota, gotten his doors blown off more than a few times. So let's take a look at those 2 games. One is the COVID season, which I don't know what was going on in the Ann Arbor that year, but clearly it was just a weird anomaly season that you have to throw out. I don't know if you can say that about every program, but judging by how Michigan looked before it, how they looked immediately after it, just something weird was going on in Ann Arbor that year. So let's throw that game out. Then we look at last year's game where we already know all the asterisks surrounding that one. Basically took a perfect comeback where they got 2-point conversions. The Aiden Hutchinson strip sack fumble that got overturned. The McCarthy,
and you have a dude in Kenneth Walker had a just career day, 5 touchdowns.
Yes. They had the McCarthy quorum, bobbled exchange. If any one of those things doesn't happen, Mel Tucker, man, he's even looking even worse. And so it's just what a weird, sad reality. I really thought that he was building something that was going to rival Michigan like D'Antonio had, for years to come. The little thing that I like to keep reminding myself, remember when D'Antonio was basically iced out of the coaching decision? That idea of not letting him have a say in it just looks worse and worse as the days pass on by, because Michigan State really shelled out a lot of cash for this guy. $95 million. This is not, we're not USC. They're not Oklahoma loaded up with cash, man. That's a serious payday for a Michigan State coach. And as it sits today, it's not looking good.
Yeah. And you bring up the D'Antonio thing and the whole way that Michigan State handled his departure and not getting his opinion. That was botched right at the beginning. And again, that kind of set up this bad karma that I like to call it. But, I was willing to give the Spartans a little break after the loss to Washington. But after I watched that entire game against Minnesota, if I was a Spartan fan, I'd be completely embarrassed. That was a home game, Big Ten home opener, and completely embarrassing performance, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And, Matt, you're looking at the schedule, watching that game. I don't know how they're going to come out on the injury report, but they had guys going down left and right, and these are their starters. So if they're bringing in the backups and they're already playing pitiful football, it could be tough. I'm telling you, it's not looking good for Sparty for this year. Now, do you say that Mel Tucker is a failure? Probably a little too early to say on that.
I think it's this season. Although it's the season's already almost basically a wrap. We know how college football works. Yeah. But a big win against Michigan, a big win against Ohio State. I'm sure they have Penn State somewhere on their schedule. You win one of those 3 games, man, you're going to win back a lot of good graces as State fans, I would think. So there's still a lot of football out of them.
Yeah, if they ended up 7-5 with a Michigan win, I think Michigan State fans would say, "Cool."
Yeah, baby.
Rebuilding year.
Right.
Well,
I don't know if they're going to do that though.
That's about as much as we've talked about Michigan State in a while, even though it was all negative.
I was going to say.
Well, dude, if they had blown the doors off of, think about the hype going into last year's matchup, man. If they had blown the doors off of Minnesota and Washington, we'd be talking about how great this Michigan State game is. Now we have to talk about how they suck. I'm not happy about it.
But it's like you said, I mean, whether Michigan State's up or down, it's almost a lose-lose for Michigan all the time. I mean, it's because say they are 2-5 going into that Michigan game and Michigan beats it by 20 or something like that, then it's just like, yeah, well, you should have. We suck this year. But
you can't count Sparty out either.
Right.
Even if they're 2-5 going in that game.
Yeah, we've seen plenty of games that Michigan should have won that they didn't. So
right.
Michigan's just got to worry about themselves.
Let's talk about Michigan. I mean, Maryland looked pretty good. I think, Corum obviously had a good day and saved the day for Michigan. JJ, reasonably good game, but, again, he showed that little looseness with the ball a couple times. They got to clean that up. But overall, I think a good win for Michigan against a pretty good Maryland team.
I think Maryland's going to end up having a good season as long as Tua's little brother at quarterback, as long as their backup quarterback didn't look that bad either.
He looked pretty good.
If they can all stay healthy, I bet I wouldn't be surprised if we see Maryland 9-10 wins maybe, or maybe somewhere around there.
Anyway.
But the McCarthy thing, I just want to say real quick, Jared, before you jump in. Obviously I've been high on JJ McCarthy ever since, you guys were wanting Cade to be the starter.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing people had to remember, those first 3 games were against 3 really bad teams. So, what he was doing against those teams, maybe setting the bar a little too high. Also, we're going from basically 2 completely different quarterbacks. The people who are set on Cade McNamara, completely different style than JJ McCarthy. So the people who are watching McCarthy trying to run around like crazy, like Fran Tarkenton, back in your day, Ted, or, Johnny.
The announcers even mentioned it.
Yeah, like, Johnny Manziel just all over the place trying to scramble. The people that are like getting pissed at that, it's kind of like, well, this is what you have to realize. This is this kid's style of play. This is what he does. He knows he's fast. He can make those. He did that one time, scrambled like crazy and still picked up like 10 yards and a first down. So
that was sweet.
Like one of his first plays as a freshman last year, I think against Western Michigan, he did that same thing. And then remember, he fired that like 70-yard pass across the field for a touchdown. So like, it's one of those, like, you have to take all the very good throws and plays that he does and know there's going to be probably 2 or 3 a game where you're going, what the hell are you doing? You just hope that they're not backbreakers and, lose you the game. He didn't turn the ball over. He did fumble, but, Michigan recovered it. He didn't throw any interceptions. He made big throws when they needed to, threw a couple touchdowns, so like, that's all. Hopefully those crazy plays, like you said, they can watch the tape and say, hey man, he's got to figure out like when to run and when not to. Cause then like, there were a couple plays where he probably should have taken off and he took a sack. And then there were the couple plays where it was like, what are you doing? Yakety sacks, running around like crazy. So it was his first start in a Big Ten game. He's got some.
You could expect some growing pains. He did miss some guys. I'll be honest, man. The Michigan wide receivers were running wild. We have a good wide receiving core. Maryland couldn't keep up. If McCarthy hits a couple more throws, we probably blow that game wide open, mid-third quarter, but he just wasn't. He missed a few deep balls. That happens, especially, like I said, when it's your kind of his first, big pressure game that he's really been the guy for. So you expect that, but I don't know. This defense is really what worries me, guy. I felt like we saw some serious cracks, and it's funny we forget that we have 3 brand new coordinators this year, and the co-offensive coordinators. They kind of righted the ship in the fourth quarter, but they kind of had a weird game that I wouldn't say that it definitely wasn't their best called game that I've seen so far. And then we got a brand new defensive coordinator. So and then obviously when you lose Hutchinson and Ojabo, you're not going to have the same pass rush. Definitely we're not pressuring Talia very much when he was drawing back the pass. I felt like the defense struggled a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it's just we're just got to come to the realization that this is not last year's defense.
Right.
And if we're going to win games, we're probably going to have to win them, high scoring. I don't expect us to shut down Ohio State's offense this year. If we want to win that game, we're probably going to need to score 42 or more.
Right.
And have to do it a lot throughout the air, I think. So I don't know. It was a bit of a depressing game. I just felt like I saw a lot of cracks. And, in college football, you just want to keep, win each week, 1-0 every week, 1-0 every week. But I don't know. It just seems like that's something that's going to come back to haunt us when we really need a good defense.
Yeah, and I look at it a little bit more of the glass is half full. I think for a Big Ten opener, Maryland came ready to play. Michigan realistically had them beat by 2 touchdowns when it was all said and done, even though Maryland got that late score. Yeah, there were some cracks that they need to shore up, but that's Harbaugh. Harbaugh's a heck of a coach, and this staff's a good staff. I think they'll clean things up, and they'll continue to roll, hopefully. But yeah, there was some cracks that we saw in that game that they got to clean up, no doubt. But
Harbaugh
W
was
is a
amped
W.
on the sidelines, man. And you guys notice it seemed like more than usual. He was really fired up. Like the first touchdown, McCarthy on the rollout right. He was fist pumping, man. He was loving it.
What a break to start the game, too, right?
And then McCarthy had a great, throw basically the game saving throw. I think it was to Ronnie Bell. Harbaugh gave another fist pound after that. I love watching Harbaugh, man. He's into it. Yeah, it's just I don't know, Matt. You didn't feel like there was any issues at all that you were kind of worried about after watching that game?
Not overly worried.
Not necessarily worried. I think it was maybe like a wake up call type of game after those first 3 games when maybe they were puffing their chests out a little bit, thinking they're going to score 50 every week, and obviously that's probably not the case. They got a lot to work on. I think a big thing, Blake Corum had that career day. He carried the ball 30 times. I don't think that's sustainable as much as we all like Blake Corum.
No.
I don't know. Today's, you don't hand the ball 30 times to a guy every week. So hopefully Donovan Edwards can come back and,
what happened to him? Does anybody know what happened to Edwards?
It's a leg injury. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but remember he caught that pass down the sidelines against Hawaii, and then he scored on the very next play. And I remember watching it, and he was kind of like hobbled. I thought it looked like he had a concussion or something.
Yeah.
And then a leg, whatever the hell that means. He's supposed to be. I just read a couple hours ago that he might play this week. He's basically like a day-to-day situation. So that's a big thing to me. I think if Michigan wants to like actually legitimately make a run, they need him to come back, because you're not handing the ball to Blake Corum 30 times.
Especially when Stokes. Dude, Stokes, all you needed to do was come in and basically carry the ball once every quarter,
right?
And first carry just puts it right on the deck.
He didn't touch the field the rest of the game. I
can just imagine Corum being like, "Oh fuck, I'm gonna have to carry the ball 30 times today." So that was another big kind of critical play. If we don't put that ball on the deck right there, we're driving. We're probably going to go up 2 scores right there, 14-0.
Yeah.
So that's another big play to kind of circle. If that goes a little bit different, probably a little bit different of a game.
You are right about one thing, Jared. The cracks that we saw against Maryland, they better get it cleaned up in a hurry. Going on the road, on the grass at Iowa, you know how the Iowa fans are. It's going to be a tough environment. 11 o'clock kickoff in Iowa on Saturday, 12 noon here. That's going to be the real test, I think, to see if the Wolverines are for real. Even though Iowa's not the strongest team, they're always tough at home.
Defense is legit.
Defense is legit. They always play Michigan tough.
I'm just glad it's not a night game. I'll gladly take that at noon. We don't want Kinnick at night, but this is going to be another test. Yeah, their offense isn't very good, and actually it's like not good at all. But that defense, if Michigan's offense struggled a little bit against Maryland, man, they're in for even more of a test against Iowa, especially at Iowa. So hopefully that's what I mean. Hopefully they can watch that tape against Maryland and be like, okay, cool. UConn is behind us. Colorado State is behind us. This is real, like, big boy football now.
Amen. Yeah. Well, before we wrap up the show, we got to talk about the Lions. I watched every minute of that game.
Yep.
I'm not even going to give my comment right now. Let's hear what you guys have to say.
It's the classic. We're all excited because of the offseason, the draft picks they made. We talked about how much we loved Hard Knocks and just how it seemed like everything. Dan Campbell was changing the culture. All the coaches, the players, everyone was buying into the system, and Dan Campbell's message about gritty and playing hard and all this kind of stuff. And they are. You can see it. They play hard. They don't give up, all of that kind of stuff. But I tweeted it out about 100 times. Like, if you want to kick the same old Lions, the SOL moniker that, people are so sick of, Ted, you've been talking about it as hashtag since 57. You don't lose games like that. That's what it is. You're winning the whole game. The Lions were the better team that whole game. They went up 14-0, and then the Vikings tied it at 14. But then the rest of the game, the Lions had control. Mm-hmm. They did everything they needed to do except close that game out. And the disappointing part is that, yes, the offense could have scored more points. the defense could have stopped Kirk Cousins on that last drive, all that stuff. But is that Dan Campbell, the head coach, made a couple really boneheaded decisions? He's going for it for fourth down. I think they went for it on fourth down like 8 times. And then right there at the end, they decide not to go for it. They kick a long field goal, put the Vikings in great position to score. So that's kind of what was disappointing to me. If players say Goff threw an interception to like seal it, it'd be like, man, Goff, what the hell? It's that Campbell keeps making these like head scratching decisions. I know he's only in his second year, as a full-time head coach, but it's like, hey man, you're getting out coached. I mean, you can preach all you want to these players, but you're making some bad decisions. And after the game, he admitted it. Man. He said he regrets kicking that field goal, wishes he wouldn't have. And
I friggin' regret it. That's what he said.
It's like, cool. I'm glad you said that, but why did you do it? I think all of us sitting at home were saying, why are you kicking this field goal? So, yeah.
Yeah. It's just, that's the thing. It's funny because we like, and all this Dan Campbell lead up, we forgot, kind of maybe the most important part of being a coach is the game managing.
Right.
I mean, the NFL, these guys are getting paid millions. It's almost like the motivation is kind of already there. I mean, you're dangling $1 million bills in front of these guys. I feel like they're usually going to kind of come out and battle. Unless you're Urban Meyer, who's like very bad, they're usually going to kind of support you and play for you. So I don't know. It's just these game managing decisions he keeps making. Going back to last year, we saw it a lot too. It's like, it's just puzzling. Seems like it should be the easiest part. Maybe I'm crazy for feeling that way, but it seems like it just should be easy, man. Just go for it on fourth there. I mean, that field goal was do or die.
Right.
I have just to go up by 6. It's not like we were about to, put the game on ice or something. It's not like we were up by 7 to go up by 10. This was basically we're going to overtime if he did not make this kick. And sure enough, didn't even have a chance. And Campbell, the first one to admit it, like you said, in post-game presser, he regrets the decision. He's always there to own it up, which is good. Makes it a little bit harder to hate on him for sure. Right. But he almost needs like a Sean Payton or something, like up in the press box there to give him advice. I don't care if Sean Payton's not there Monday through Saturday. Put him up in the press box on Sunday and just have him in Dan Campbell's ear the entire game. Needs like a co-coach.
I even saw Jared Goff said something like he wishes he would have went up to Campbell and lobbied a little more to go for it. And the other thing, I know, Ted, you're going to jump in. The field goal wouldn't have even been a thought to me. I know I'm not an NFL head coach. I'm just a schmuck on the couch. But, like, they have one of the best punters in the league. I would have rather seen him try to pin him deep. See if Fox can pin it right inside the 5-yard line and make Cousins go 95 yards or whatever. Like, I would have rather that than seeing some dude who I don't even know who his name is kick a 50-yard.
Austin Seifert.
Yeah, kick a 50-40. If you've got Matt Prater, do it. If you got Jason Hansen, do it. Right. You don't. And we saw that. So
yeah. Well, ultimately it did come down to that. I mean, you had 3 choices, right? Go for it, punt, or kick the field goal. Well, unfortunately, the field goal was the third choice that he should have even thought of. Right. I kind of agree with you. The punt would have been the Bill Belichick way, the Andy Reid way, the Dan Campbell way is go for it. And he didn't go for it. I mean, it made no sense. And again, this goes back, I think you tweeted something when I went on my rant last year. It was almost the identical situation. This is the NFL. You don't kick it there up by 3. Rely on your defense. Your defense overall still halfway decent other than number 24, which I don't know what game he was playing. Man. I mean, that was ridiculous. But
I think he had 6 penalties.
6 penalties.
6 penalties.
Dear
and
God.
I mean, we can talk about him over on the other side, Jeff Okudah. As much as we've talked about his injury and hopefully he comes back, he had a hell of a game. But
he's been playing well. You can't argue.
Playing well.
I mean, he's not exactly Revis, but he's been showing flashes. I mean, every day you see every week you see the Pro Football Focus. This past week it was him versus Justin Jefferson. Right. Again, he had a great game. So
he's a legit starter.
Yeah. So
you start to wonder. I think we talked about it before the season, or maybe after they lost to the Eagles. You watch Hard Knocks, and like I said, all these players are bought in. They love Dan Campbell, but how long can he keep preaching about the culture and gritty and try hard and we're always going to put up a fight when you keep losing games like this? Right. I mean, if they play the Seahawks this week and at home, I saw they opened as a 6.5-point favorite. If they lose this game, the whole season might fall apart if they lose this game, because they at home, they should beat the Seahawks. There's no way.
And here's the thing, man. I guess it's like we got to remember. I don't think it's time to hit the panic button yet.
No,
I mean that's a game that we probably, would you guys have been surprised if we would have lost that game by 2 scores, before we kicked off? It wasn't like we were expected to win that game. Should have won that game. Showed that this team is legit. I feel like we were the better team. It was on the road, tough environment against a veteran team. We're a young upstart team, but the thing that is key to me and key to so far, I think the success of the season, we got to win the games that we have to win, which is
right.
the Commanders, it's the Seahawks. We got to probably beat the Vikings at home when we see them there. Got to beat the Bears. Like I feel like we just got to win the games that we should win. As long as we keep doing that, Dan Campbell is doing a great job, in my opinion.
Well, you're right, but to make that next step up the ladder, I think I tweeted it to you guys. They went from a statement road win to a standard Lions loss. I mean, it was that simple.
Well, because leading into that game, I think it was like Thursday or Friday. I was at work, and I had on like all the ESPN networks, and at one point they were all talking about the Lions. Like the friends were sending clips, of like, man, Lions are starting to get a lot of hype. A lot of people are starting to talk about the Lions, and that's what it was. It was like, this is your chance, like you just said, Ted, to make a statement.
Right.
People, the Vikings whooped up on the Packers in week 1. And like you said, Jared, the Vikings are a veteran team with a veteran quarterback, all that kind of stuff. You go on the road and beat and really like handle the Vikings, people really start to talk about you. And then, you got the Seahawks, you hopefully win. You
get that momentum.
Right. You get that momentum. You've got a division win. Now it's just back to, I don't want to say same old Lions, but it's back to, another one of those games that they blow in the end.
Well, hopefully they can make some adjustments. Hopefully Campbell can learn a little bit. I mean, we know he's a motivator, but Jared, you're right on. You got to know the X and O's and the game management. And if you're going to be a long-term coach in the NFL, man, you can't have mistakes like that. And there's been too many of them so far. He's got to clean them all up. But hey, we'll be watching next week for sure.
Of course.
All right, guys, I think we've had a good podcast. This has been the 3 Point Podcast presented by Skymint Cannabis, Michigan's leader in the industry with many convenient locations throughout Michigan. Use that coupon code 3.20 at the Corunna store for 20% off your first purchase. Check out the new Skymint Reserve featuring exceptional profiles, in the other words, the good stuff. And Memorial Healthcare. Check out the walk-in sports injury clinic every Monday through October 17th at the Now Community Wellness Center. Follow us at 3 Point Pod. Spread the word. Share with your friends. Make sure you let all our great partners know that you listen in. They include AZEE Printing Solutions, Capital Sports, Fieldhouse and Hit and Pitch, Pro Real Estate and Auction, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. We want to say special thanks to Jason Hutton of Fox 17 for dropping by. And this episode of 3 Point Podcast was recorded at StreamYard.com. If you don't go see the documentary at the NCG Cinema this weekend, maybe go up and see Chi-Town October 1st at the Big Country Festival in Frankenmuth. That's an 8 o'clock start for the boys. I think that's where I am headed. And Friday night, the Z92.5 Game of the Week. It's St. John's at Williamston, so hopefully you can tune into that one. If you can't catch it live, you can catch it right here on our podcast site. So until next week, so long, everybody. Peace and love. Be kind. Go Lions. Thanks for listening.